I'd like to call the May meeting of the business committee meeting, the business committee meeting to order. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Ms. Mary Katina,
Here.
Ms. President Chartier,
Here.
Madam Wright.
Thank you. Item A, finance, to consider the renewal of software licenses for Destiny Library Manager and resource applications from Follett for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Anybody, Mr. Jamie?
Yes, ma'am, this is just an annual renewal, and because of the price, it has to come before you for approval. So this is for the software that is used to catalog and check out both the library books as well as the Chromebooks.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
My only question is the separate subscriptions for the middle schools in Thibodeau. How is that gonna be handled? Do they still need separate, or is it gonna go combined into one? Is it based, it's based on,
So that's a good
population,
question.
or?
So we're renewing it as is because we have to merge the two together.
Okay.
And then once we do that, we're gonna work with Paulette to.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Any public comment? If not, I move that we accept the license renewal, seconded by Ms. Carpenter. Vote. Motion carries. B, to consider the renewal of software licenses for Go Guardian Classroom Management for Lymanex for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
Yes, ma'am. This was the new classroom management software that we implemented last year.
Question? I do, is there any way that we could possibly get more than a one-year contract on these?
I would think of that cost.
Okay, might look into something like that. Any
So I
comment?
will tell you that, this was originally purchased with us, so we kept the contract short initially because of that.
Okay.
But yes, so now that we're starting to post ESSER, we'll be able to extend.
Any comment from the board? Any public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, my Jamie, I didn't see you there.
This is the same software that was to help the teachers lock the Chromebooks so they could teach the kids more doing what they're doing. Because I know you talked about it last year, and I thought it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I've seen it in action in a classroom. The teachers seem to really appreciate it and enjoy it, and it really keeps the kids in check. I mean, we're looking at the age of technology where everything's being done on these Chromebooks, so they're physically able to see if the kids are actively typing and participating in the assignment at hand without having to go walk around and look at their paper on their desk. So it's effective. And I think that it's a great idea. Yeah.
Motion by Ms. Charpentier, seconded by me. Vote. Letter C, to consider the renewal of software license support services for J Campus student data applications from EdGear for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Mr. Jamie.
And again, this is the annual renewal for our student information system. So this is for a 1-year period.
Any board questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you. Is it also in our best interest to keep these as a 1 year in case a better product comes out, so that we're not locked in for too long with technology?
This is
Right, no, I'm saying, but is it in our best interest to stay at a 1 year because the new best thing or something else could come out at one point?
For this one, I would say that the student data application to EdU, we just adopted and selected, thank you, for 3 years. Five, thank you.
They're required.
Multiple.
They're
They're
required.
required 5. But what I would tell you is, from the user standpoint, because this is how teachers, who's going to give the test, grade the test, and whatnot, we probably want to retain some stability. So even if something better comes out, I don't think that's something that we will be eager to switch out very, very quickly.
I just was curious about that.
It does make sense in some cases.
Yeah.
But some systems takes, like, for instance, this one in particular, it takes so long to actually get it.
Because this one's going to take us about a year to stand up, right?
Any other questions or comments from board members, committee members, any public comment? Not, motion by Ms. Sharpton, seconded by me. Vote. Motion carried. Item D, to consider contract changes for several coordinators and specialists for the 2023-2024 school year. Who is, anybody? Mr. Martin?
I can speak to it. Ms. LaFawn has a document in the attached file that speaks to the cost of this, but what we're attempting to do is stop what we call ancillary contracts, which have been very common for people that work throughout the summer, and just pay them for the 230 days that we need them to work. So the 2 positions in particular that are changing from what has historically been 182 to 230 are curriculum facilitators. These are 2 of the folks who have already been hired to work with the curriculum. And the way these folks work is that we most desperately need them in the summer. And then so what happens is we enter into a second contract with them to work over the summer. So they have become 230-day employees without the 230-day employee contract. So by transitioning them to actually become 230-day employees, the net change to the general fund is actually a savings. And it's going to come at a cost to title money because some of these folks are funded through federal programs and IDEA. So it's going to increase the cost to the budget that we arrive at through Title II and IDEA and save the general fund $47,000 a year.
Any comments, any questions from board members? I just want to say that I worked that as a coordinator way back when, and that was all they always had to issue was ancillary contracts in the summer because that's where a lot of the work was done. So I definitely think that this is a good move. All right, any comment from the public? Motion, Ms. Sharpton, I second it. Vote. Yeah, we had an IT guy that was in it. Motion carried. Item E, to receive the monthly budget to actual report for all major funds from the period through August the 30th, 2023. Okay.
Across the fiscal year, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the general fund, we have received 88% of our budgeted revenues, which is on track for staying within budget and meeting that budget for the end of the year. We've expended 79.2% of the expenditures, which while it is in line with the budget, we are experiencing some escalated costs for a lot of our supplies maintenance supplies, some of the technology supplies, so we will look at that very closely with the 2024 budget and increase those line items. In the 1995 sales tax salary restricted fund, they collected 76.1% of their revenues that were budgeted and expended 150.9% of the expenditure. In the salary supplement fund, they have collected 115.8% of the revenues, which indicates recovery in the ad valorem tax area from Hurricane Ida, which is a good thing. And then they've expended 122% of the expenditures. Outside of those things, there's nothing remarkable to report in those major.
Do you have any questions, board members, committee members? Any public comment? Thank you very much for that report. Item F, receive periodic budget report for special revenue and proprietary funds. The bond.
Yes, ma'am. This report is a requirement of the state agreed upon procedures process, which is in place and regulated by the Legislative Auditor's Office. The first report we're going to look at is for proprietary funds, which includes our group health plan fund, the loss control fund, and the workers' compensation fund. And when you look at the boxes in green, the first column is the combined budget for those three funds. And the second column there in green is where we actually are this year as far as for meeting that budget. The other columns are just a breakout of those three individual funds as they appear. And right now in the group health fund, we are actually $2.2 million to the negative. However, there are still some transfers and things that need to take place at the end of the year, and we expect that to end on a positive note for this fiscal year.
Any questions from board, committee, any public questions, comments? Thank you very much. That's good. Hopefully we'll keep that in mind that we see it. All right.
Excuse me, there's two.
Oh, yeah.
The legislative auditor likes us to work hard. So we can have a second report. The second report is on our special revenue fund. The first portion of that is on all of the tax-based funds. They're either funded through sales tax collections or ad valorem tax collections, and they will follow the same percentages as you can see as in the general fund. Look at the first one, which is the debt service fund on page 1. They have collected 116% of their budget, and this reflects again that recovery in the ad valorem tax base. Looking a little further down to the bottom of the page in the safety fund, same thing, as well as your AC maintenance fund on the next page and your retirement supplement fund, and all are following their budget pretty well. The sales tax sales tax textbook fund and the technology fund are represented also, and those expenditures are within budget. Revenues are tracking to be within budget by the end of the year. And the last part of that report is on grant funds. These are special revenue funds, which we're required to report on a periodic basis, but these are all reimbursement based. So if you notice in the budget column, the revenues, which are shown as a credit in that column, and the expenditures will all be the same because you are reimbursed based upon the allocation given you by the federal government as you expend those dollars. The second column shows you where we actually are right now against those budgets, and where you see the bolded numbers, for instance, under the very first fund listed, number 107, which is the ESSER funding, you see a figure of $942,376. That represents expenses that we've incurred that we have not yet received the money for. Those all come afterwards. Takes the state about 30 days after we file the claim. Those payments. Any question on the special revenue fund report?
A lot of work. Any questions, comments? Comment from public? We'll thank you for that report also. And letter G, to receive a financial report on Hurricane Ida response and recovery to date.
Yes, ma'am. The expenditures to date are $76,800,000. We've also, through contractual agreements, obligated an additional 24.5 million, for a total of $101.4 million. If you look at the second chart on the page where it says Hurricane Recovery Fund that is located with trustee Hancock Whitney Bank, we had a $40 million set aside for Hancock Whitney. Not reflected in this report because this report is as of April 30th, but early in the month of May, we drew down another $30 million of this fund. And the very last part down there is the FEMA report that we provide to Hancock Whitney on a monthly basis. And you can see the good news is that we received $764,000 in the month of April. We've received a total from FEMA in reimbursements of $39.5 million. And they have requested a FEMA of $51.4 million. So we're beginning to see a little bit of action from the FEMA department there. It's moving a little bit more quickly than it was.
Any questions, comments? Any public comment? Thank you very much. We'll move on to transportation. We receive a report of the transportation events for the previous month.
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Everybody's like hiding from it today.
So, and just like that, the year's over with, and the drivers did an amazing job this year. This past Monday, we did something we haven't done in 5 years. They put the routes up for selection of the drivers. At the end of that, what happened was we had 2 routes that weren't selected in the entire parish. So we have 2 vacant routes. Instead of on the report that you have right now, you'll see 4 vacant routes. But right now, if we started school tomorrow, there'd be 2 routes. But we also have 4 substitute drivers that'll do full-time work if we don't secure 2 drivers over the summer. And both of those routes are in the south area. Breakdowns last month, we had 1 bus that was broken down over a couple, it was about a week or so. They had an issue that they had to send the bus to the dealership, and they got it back actually today from the dealership, which is a good thing. Moving forward with all the buses getting checked in over the summer, that finished up on Monday after the drivers selected their routes. They went in, turned in the buses, D&L, and I started my inspections of all the buses in the yards today. And every bus that was turned into the Thibodeau yard, all of Thibodeau and Bayou area, was turned in with a perfect inspection, AC filters, everything is clean. There's a few buses, about 5 in the Thibodeau yard, that we're going to have the trees washed over the summer, and 1 or 2 in the central area that we'll be getting that taken care of over the summer. The school year ended in a super positive direction. The drivers did an amazing job this past school year, and for the most part, they all seem to be in a positive attitude of getting ready to start for the next school year. In the office, we're looking at getting everything as automated as possible so we can focus more on supporting the drivers instead of spending as much time on paperwork to get that side of it automated so we can truly support the people who make it happen every day, which is the drivers. Any questions?
What about the buses that a bunch of the propane buses, thank you, did they have to sell them? Did they ever?
No, I don't. To find a buyer for that, I personally don't see it happening. You would have to, it would be someone that's going to come in and buy all of them at once. They might buy 10, they might buy 20, but nobody in this region is looking to buy propane buses. So I think that's just, something we may be with for a while. And the only other filling station besides at B&L is, I believe the closest one is somewhere around Baton Rouge. Because we just recently had a bus that was looking to do a special trip from South Lafourche, which was a driver for a propane bus. But they weren't going towards Baton Rouge, so they're using a diesel bus instead of the bus that they usually drive.
Oh, some of those are still on routes?
Yeah, all the propane buses, they're good running buses. They're clean running. They don't have many engine failures. They have, normal mechanical issues on a regular bus, but they don't have many breakdown issues at all.
Other questions? Any comment from the public? If not, thank you very much, Mr. Tobey, and thank you and congratulations on your good year with your bus drivers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There being no other business, meeting is adjourned.